does he have that I don't? Status. Looks. Is it money? You ever wonder why the guy you'd never expect always walks out with the girl you've been staring at all night? The one who's average at best. The one with corny jokes. The one who doesn't even look like he tried. Yet somehow, she's leaning in, laughing, and leaving with him while you're still rehearsing your first line. It stings, doesn't it? You try to be the gentleman. You text good morning, you buy the drinks, you give her attention, compliments, patience. You play by the rules society told you to play by. And what do you get in return? Ghosted, ignored, labeled just a friend. Meanwhile, that other guy, the one who doesn't seem to care, he gets her full attention without lifting a finger. You go home at night replaying the same questions in your head. What does he have that I don't? What am I missing? Is it money? Look, status. The truth is, it's none of those things. He isn't running secret pickup lines or tricks. He's not consciously doing anything you couldn't do. What he's doing, often by accident, is triggering hidden switches in her psychology. Switches that make her chase him, crave him, obsess over him. And here's the twist: once you understand these patterns, you'll never look at dating the same way again. Because women don't respond to effort the way you've been told. They respond to something much deeper, something primal, something wired into their brains long before social media, long before modern dating. Stay with me until the end of this video, and I'll show you exactly how it works. You've been told your whole life that women want attention, that they want compliments, that the way to win them over is by making them feel special. And maybe that sounds logical, but if it really worked, wouldn't you already be winning? Wouldn't she already be chasing you instead of ghosting you? The truth is brutal. It doesn't work because it was never about how much validation you give. It's about how much validation is worth coming from you. Think about it. When you flood a woman with praise, texting her every morning, liking every picture, calling her beautiful every chance you get, you're not making her feel special. You're making yourself predictable. You're turning your attention into background noise, like static on a radio. Always there, but meaningless. She doesn't value what's always available. Nobody does. And deep down, you already know this, because the same woman who barely replies to your long messages will lose her mind when some guy leaves her on read. It seems unfair, doesn't it? You put in the effort, he barely tries. And yet, she can't stop thinking about him. But here's why. Women don't crave validation. They crave earning validation. They want to feel like they've done something to deserve your approval. They want the high that comes from winning the attention of someone who doesn't hand it out like candy. When she finally gets it, that's when she becomes obsessed. That's when it matters. Let's put it in perspective. A woman can post a photo online and get thousands of likes in minutes. Strangers flooding her DMs with fire emojis and thirsty compliments. It doesn't move her. It doesn't excite her. It's just noise. But let the one guy who never likes anything finally tap that little heart. And suddenly, it's different. She screenshots it. She sends it to her friends. She overanalyzes it like it's a secret code. Why? Because his validation is rare. It's scarce. It's valuable. And humans only value what they have to work for. Now, here's the paradox that most men never figure out. The more you chase her with compliments and constant attention, the less your approval means. The more you make her feel like a goddess without asking her to earn it. The faster she loses interest. You think you're showing her love. What you're really showing is that you have nothing else going on, that your entire world revolves around her. And the moment she feels that, the game is over. Meanwhile, the man who focuses on his own life, who isn't desperate for her time, who seems like he could take her or leave her, that's the man whose validation she can't get enough of. He doesn't have to play hard to get. He is hard to get, because his time, his attention, his approval are tied to something real: his standards, his purpose, his options. And women will compete for that. They'll fight for the man who doesn't need them, because his validation means more than 1,000 good morning texts from the guy who does. This is why the so-called nice guy gets crushed in modern dating. Not because kindness is bad, but because it's cheap when it comes without standards. It's like a participation trophy. Everyone gets one, so nobody values it. But when you make her feel like your attention is something she has to earn, everything changes. Suddenly, she's not just talking to you, she's performing for you. She's working to impress you. And when she finally wins your approval, it feels like gold. The world we live in has amplified this even more. With social media, women are drowning in validation from men they don't respect. Thousands of likes, endless comments, a constant stream of attention. But it's empty. It's like junk food filling in the moment, but never satisfying. That's why she feels more insecure than ever, despite all the attention. And that's why your role is so important. Because when you give her validation that actually means something, it stands out from the noise. It cuts through the endless white static of men begging for her time. So remember, these women don't want a man who gives them everything for free. They want a man whose approval matters, because not everyone can get it. They want the challenge. They want to feel like they've won something real. And the more you understand this, the more you see why doing everything right never worked. It's not about more flowers, more compliments, or more attention. It's about value, your value. And the second you flip that switch, the entire game changes. Once you understand why easy validation kills attraction, the next piece falls into place. Because if validation has no value when it's free, then what makes it powerful is scarcity. And nothing creates scarcity in a woman's mind like competition. This is where most men get blindsided. They believe that exclusivity is the ultimate goal. They think if a woman knows she has you all to herself, she'll relax and give more. But reality is the opposite. The moment she feels she has you locked down, the excitement starts to die. Desire fades. Effort disappears. The spark that pulled her in evaporates, because human psychology is wired to want what can be lost. A woman is far more afraid of losing a high-value man than she is upset about sharing him. That sounds shocking at first, but think about it. For millions of years, the real threat wasn't that her man might sleep with another woman. It was that he might give his love, his protection, his resources to someone else. Sex is just biology. But emotional investment, that's survival. If she feels she could lose that, it sets off alarms she can't ignore. This is why women chase hardest when they see other women showing interest in you. When another woman laughs at your joke, when she touches your arm, when she gives you that look, her brain doesn't say, "Oh no, he's a player." It screams, "He's valuable. I need to win him." Competition flips a switch in her primal wiring. It makes her fight for you instead of testing you. You've probably seen it play out. The same girl who made you wait hours for a reply suddenly becomes hyper-attentive the moment she senses she isn't your only option. The one who kept you at arm's length starts initiating plans when she realizes other women are around. Her behavior changes overnight. She becomes sweeter, more agreeable, more sexual. Not because she's fake, but because her instinct tells her she has to compete. And here's where most guys screw it up. They try to fake competition. They brag about women who don't exist. They tell stories that feel forced. They try to manufacture jealousy. But women can sense desperation. They can feel when you're pretending. And instead of triggering attraction, it backfires. It makes you look weaker. Because pretending to be wanted is not the same as actually being wanted. The real power of competition comes when it's authentic. When your life is genuinely attractive enough that women naturally want to be part of it. When you're building something meaningful. When your time and energy are scarce because you're focused on growth. When you have options not because you chase them, but because they come to you. That's when competition anxiety kicks in for real. And here's the paradox. You need to remember, the less you need her, the more she needs you. The less desperate you are for one specific woman, the harder she'll fight to be your best option. Security kills tension. Competition fuels it. That's why women often become most attracted at the exact wrong times when you're leaving town, when you're emotionally unavailable, or when you're already in a relationship. Scarcity and competition awaken something primal. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine she believes she's your only shot. She knows she's the center of your world. She knows you'll wait as long as it takes. What happens then? She tests you. She pushes boundaries. She withholds intimacy. She gets bored. Because she has all the power. The dynamic is broken, and attraction collapses. So stop thinking your role is to eliminate competition. Your role is to become the man who naturally inspires it. A man women look at and think, if I don't step up, I'll lose him. That's when attraction becomes effortless. That's when women chase you, not the other way around. If you're still here, it means this message is hitting home. And trust me, we're just getting started. So make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Because what's coming next will expose the deepest triggers in female psychology, the ones that explain why some men get chased for life and others get forgotten overnight. Once you see how competition rewires her behavior, you start noticing another force at play, one that goes even deeper. It's the war every woman fights between her mind and her biology. A battle that starts in her 20s and gets louder with every year that passes. And here's the hard truth after a certain point. Her ovaries win that war. At 21, she's chasing excitement. She'll date the broke musician with a six-pack and a motorcycle. She'll run off with the wild guy who has nothing stable to offer because her brain tells her there's plenty of time. But watch what happens just a few years later. At 27, the same man who once thrilled her now repulses her. Why? Because her biology is screaming louder than her logic. This guy can't provide. He's fun, but he's useless long term. She doesn't call it biology. She calls it maturity. But deep down, it's evolution pulling the strings. You can see the shift everywhere. Look at dating profiles. At 22, she writes, love adventures, looking for someone spontaneous. At 28, it's ready for something real, looking for stability. That's not just preference, it's programming. Her clock is ticking so loudly she can't ignore it anymore. She wants both superior genetics and security. And that's where the paradox comes in. Women want two men at once. The alpha, the dominant, confident, sexually magnetic leader, And the provider, the man with resources, stability, emotional strength, commitment potential. The problem: those two men rarely exist in the same body. The alpha triggers her primal desire for strong genes. The provider triggers her need for protection and survival. Young women believe they have time to find both in one. Older women realize they may have to choose, and it drives them insane. That's why a successful 35-year-old woman will sneak around with the personal trainer who makes her body burn, but never introduce him to her family. He has the alpha traits she craves, but no ability to provide the future she needs. Meanwhile, she'll go on safe dates with the corporate guy who bores her because his resources feel secure. It's a brutal paradox. The man who excites her can't protect her, and the man who protects her doesn't excite her. And here's where things get even more intense. As she approaches 30, the pressure spikes. The same woman who spent her 20s finding herself suddenly flips a switch. Now she's laser-focused on finding a mate. Her standards skyrocket. Yet in some ways, they also drop. She demands higher quality genetics and stability, but she's more willing to compromise on things she once swore she wouldn't. It's her biology bargaining with time. Listen to the way her questions change. At 22, she asks, "What do you do for fun?" At 29, she asks, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" At 30, she asks, "Are you looking for something serious?" She's not being manipulative. She's being biological. Her body is demanding answers. It's screaming at her to evaluate every man, not just as a date, but as a potential father. This is why age gap relationships often work. A woman in her late 20s or early 30s finds herself drawn to an older man. Why? Because he's had time to sharpen his alpha traits through confidence and experience, while also building the stability of a provider. He's the rare combination her programming desperately craves. Meanwhile, the men her age are still stuck trying to decide between being players or being safe providers, never realizing she wants both in one package. So when you watch women act confusing, realize it's not confusion at all. It's biology running two programs at the same time. The one that wants the thrill of the alpha, and the one that demands the safety of the provider. Understanding this paradox doesn't just explain her choices. It puts you in control of how you show up, because when you can embody both sides, even just enough, you become the man she stops second-guessing. Now we reach the core of it all. Beyond validation, beyond competition, beyond the alpha-provider paradox. There's something even more fundamental that separates the men women lust after from the men they quietly forget. It's the energy of a builder, a man who is always creating, always moving forward, always building something bigger than himself. Because here's the truth, no one wants to admit a man who isn't building is dying. Not physically, spiritually. And women can sense that death from across the room. They can smell stagnation. They can feel when a man has stopped pushing. And the moment they sense it, their attraction collapses. Every man who has ever made a woman genuinely obsessed with him had one thing in common: he was in motion, building his body, building his career, building his skills, building his empire. It doesn't even matter what it is. What matters is that he is in the act of creation, because creation is the masculine prime directive. Women are wired to seek it. They don't just want what you've built. They want the fact that you're still building. Think about what building signals. It says you're future-focused. You have vision. You have discipline. You can delay gratification. Those aren't just attractive traits, they are survival traits. Back in tribal times, the man who built stronger shelters, who crafted better tools, who found smarter ways to hunt, was the man who kept his tribe alive. And that programming hasn't gone away. It still lives in the female brain today. This is why women lose respect for men who plateau. You got the job promotion, then stopped growing. You built the body, then let it fade. You reached one milestone and thought it was enough, but the moment you stop building, in her eyes, you start dying. Not because she's shallow, not because she's ungrateful, but because her primitive brain reads stagnation as weakness, and weakness is repulsive. That's why the billionaire she fantasizes about isn't sitting on a yacht doing nothing. He's chasing the next industry. The athlete she drools over isn't resting on old trophies. He's training for the next championship. Even the construction worker who's starting his own side business radiates more attraction than the spoiled kid burning through his father's money. It's not about the finished product. It's about the man who is still building. And here's what happens when you live as a builder. Your posture changes. You stand taller because you have purpose. Your eyes sharpen because you're focused. Your energy becomes magnetic because you're channeling your drive into creation instead of letting it rot into anxiety. You don't have to fake confidence. You don't have to act mysterious. Your presence does the work for you. But modern culture wants to kill that drive. It whispers in your ear, be satisfied, be comfortable, take it easy. Work-life balance, self-care. You're enough as you are. Sounds nice, doesn't it? But it's poison, because the second you buy into that lie, you stop building. And the second you stop building, you stop being attractive. Women know it. That's why they're repulsed by the 40-year-old man-child playing video games all day. He's not unattractive just because he's lazy. He's unattractive because he's violating the masculine imperative. He's not creating anything. He's just existing. And existence without growth is death. A boy consumes. He consumes entertainment. He consumes comfort. He consumes time. But a man creates. He creates value. He creates structure. He creates legacy. That's why women test you with comfort. That's why they test if you'll stop chasing once you have them. Because they need to know your drive isn't just about impressing them. They need to know your mission runs deeper. When you're truly building, you don't have time to obsess over women. You don't have energy to waste on games or manipulation. You're too busy chasing something real. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes women line up to support you, not distract you. They don't want to be your mission. They want to join a man who already has one. And when you embody that builder's energy, everything shifts. Attraction stops being something you chase. It becomes something you radiate. Sex stops being a goal. It becomes a celebration of vitality. That's the difference between the man she fantasizes about and the man she forgets the moment he leaves. Let's cut through this noise. What you've just heard isn't another list of dating tricks. It isn't a handful of clever lines or tactics. It's the psychological source code that drives female desire. The raw programming that has shaped human attraction for millions of years. And now, you see it. Women don't crave the nice guy routine. They don't melt for endless compliments. They don't stay up at night replaying good morning texts. They crave the man whose validation must be earned. They crave the man other women compete for. They crave the man who blends the fire of the alpha with the stability of the provider. And above all, they crave the builder, the man who is still in motion, still creating, still climbing. That's the man they can't resist. That's the man they can't forget. And here's the brutal dividing line: most men will never step into that role. They'll keep searching for shortcuts. They'll memorize lines, hoping confidence can be faked. They'll buy courses that give them surface-level tricks. But surface-level tricks can't rewrite biology. You either embody what attracts women at their core, or you don't. There's no middle ground. That's why some men keep losing. Over and over. They're stuck in consumption, consuming content, consuming entertainment, consuming comfort, hoping something external will flip the switch. But nothing changes until you change, until you decide to stop consuming and start building, until you decide to stop begging for attention and start becoming the man whose attention is rare. And here's the part that stings: you already know this. Deep down, you've felt it. You've seen the patterns. You've watched women chase men who seem to care less, while ignoring men who bent over backwards. You've lived the confusion. You've felt the frustration. What you've lacked isn't proof, it's clarity. And now, you have it. But knowledge without action is nothing. Knowing why attraction works means nothing if you don't live it. Understanding the code doesn't make you the prize. Embodying it does. That's the fork in the road you're standing at right now. One path leads to the same cycle you've been stuck in. Another year of wasted time. Another year of women choosing someone else. Another year of you wondering why. The other path leads to transformation, to becoming the man who doesn't need tricks, the man who doesn't chase validation because he's the validation, the man women feel lucky to win. So the question is simple: which path will you choose? Will you keep searching for quick fixes, or will you commit to rebuilding yourself into the man who naturally attracts without effort? That decision is yours alone. No one can make it for you. But make no mistake, the clock is ticking. Every day you wait, other men are stepping up. Other men are embodying these truths. And while you hesitate, they're already sleeping with the women you're afraid to approach. If what you've heard tonight hit you hard, if it explained things you've seen but never understood, don't let it fade. Lock it in. Take action. And most importantly, stick around. Because what I've given you here is just the beginning. There's more, much more. And if you're ready for it, you'll never look at dating or yourself the same way again. So here's what I want you to do right now. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because the men who stay passive will keep losing. But the men who lean in, who commit, who take these truths and run with them, they're the ones women will chase. The choice is yours. Be the man who fades into the background, or be the man who becomes unforgettable.